We're looking at the Arise agenda, the blueprint of Governor Umo Eno. And of course, to have that conversation with us this morning, I have in the studio with me Ubong Thompson and Henry Igwebike. Good morning, gentlemen. You're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you once more.
All right. I heard a very, very catchy phrase this morning, Umo Enonomics. What is it about?
Actually, Umo Enonomics had to come, is the catch phrase that we decided to come out after looking at the strategy, the attitude, and the way and manner that the governor, His Excellency Governor Umo Eno, has brought into governance in Akwa Ibom State. When you look at his compassionate kind of governance, taking the governance from the top, from the bottom to the top, from the grassroots to the higher level, being, having the masses at the center of his governance. And we decided to, coin that phrase to suit his Arise Agenda program. And that is why we said, okay, in all this, the kind of economy that is being initiated by His Excellency had to do with Umo Enonomics. It's a paradigm shift from what we've been having before. It's born out of his interest and his desire to transform Akwa Ibom State into a very, very high levels and standard of a state that you can find anywhere in the world. So that's why we come out with that phrase, Umo Enonomics.
So what is the relevance? I know that you mentioned how that it's a paradigm shift, but I'm sure other people would want to get a deeper explanation of, what it is really about, the relevance, of course. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I think I would love to do that. It's an interesting question, by the way. And Umo Enonomics is a portmanteau word. It's a philosophy that helps the economy work hard for the people while the people work for the economy. Just like he rightly said, the sustainability of a good economy is growing it from the bottom up and middle out. All right. What that means is having a stronger domestic production that feeds the people. Okay. The capacity of growing the economy such that it is reliable on itself. Because it's important we understand the situation we've seen ourselves in this country. What I think, in my view, is over the years, we've had what I would call leadership deficit. And what that means is absence of leadership, even when such personality who calls himself a leader is present. Right? But what Umo Enonomics is basically is having someone who is ready to be available to do the work that is needed to be done at the right time. So that's basically what it is. Growing a stronger domestic base, growing reliability for the state itself, and giving the state an opportunity to find itself in the league of nations.
So what's the target? What is it going to give birth to? You mentioned production,
yes,
growth,
yes,
from the basics,
yes,
to the middle class out.
Yes,
those were your words.
Exactly.
So by the time we get to the point where we're actually seeing these things in motion, what are they to birth?
What it will definitely give the birth is having everybody becoming sustainable. The desire of any responsible government is having that its citizenry is able to fend for themselves. I think it's high time we need to let go this little notion we have in our heads that we keep depending on the government every other day for little things. I think it's high time we start being sustainable. It's high time we need to understand that we are competing with the global base where things are working in other, economies. So the question is, why isn't the same thing happening in our own places? So what Umo Enonomics basically is trying to borrow what is workable in other economy and bringing it back home. Why do we have capital flight? Why do we have brain drain? It's because something is working somewhere else. The question is it possible for us to have a replication of that thing that happened somewhere else here in our home state? And that is what Pastor Umo Eno is exactly going to do. So what we have, or what we intend to have, is given birth to a situation where people would no longer see reasons to want to jet out to solve their problems while they can have it back home.
If I were to put everything together in one word, I'd call it solutions driven.
Okay.
However, it's not the first time we're hearing people come into political or leadership offices and tell us they are here to bring solutions. We've heard them great, well put together speeches, well put together words, English flying here and there. Amazing. Give it 2 weeks, 3 months into office, and nobody hears anything about those things anymore. Where I'm going with this conversation is, for the past 2 weeks, you and your colleague have been coming here to give us insight on what Pastor Umo Eno has in stock for Akwa Ibom State. However, I want to know why this is different. Is it going to be same old words we hear from every other person who is coming to office, or is there a blueprint laid down? There are physical and practical, empirical steps put forward to bring these things to being.
Now, let me give you a very simple example that's very understandable. It will surprise you to note that over the years, we've had executive governors who do not even stay in their home states. In fact, practically they operate from Abuja for a duration of 4 years. They operate from Abuja. Now, how do you expect as an executive governor who operates from Abuja to understand the rubrics of what happens in his home state? That is what we've had over the years from lots of executive governors. And that is the reason why we have this depletion. That's the reason why this avalanche of poverty that has eroded most states in Nigeria. But Umo Eno, the executive governor of Akwa Ibom State, is someone we believe in, whom we want to believe that is here to stay. So it's not a matter of him maybe going to represent the state while staying in another place. So he is home. He wants to remain home. He wants to understand what the people are going through. He wants to feel the breath of the people. He wants to understand their pains. He wants to be part of the pain. There's a difference, like you would agree with me, the difference between sympathy and empathy. All this while we've had leaders who are sympathetic. How many of such leaders are empathetic? And that is basically what Enonomics is bringing to the table. And that is what the personality of Pastor Umo Eno is equally bringing to bear.
You want to add anything to that?
Yes, to add to what my colleague just said, if you look at the advent of this government, you realize that in several occasions, the governor has told his cabinet members so far that if he wants to work with him, if you want to work for your people, that you need to go back to the rural areas where you originally originate from, and then you have to, collaborate with the people, you have to communicate with the people, you have to interact with the people, you have to know their problems, and then you have to live with your people, and then know the pains and the struggle they go through, so that you can be able to provide solutions that will help grow those particular communities. And if we also know that recently he also made a statement that not everybody can be accommodated in his government as a PA on this or that everyone, he will encourage everybody to go back to their community, look at what they can contribute to their community, and his government is ready and ever ready to give support in terms of business financings and farm loans and what have you, and trainings of many kinds, so that they can be able to grow their economy. So this is the basis in which we know there has been a paradigm shift in governance. Unlike before, you see some governors operating, or most of the governors, they operate from Abuja, but here you have a state governor that is ready and headbent to grow with the people, solve the problem of the people, and make sure that they all have a good time at the end of the day.
Let's put the Umo Enonomics. Let's put it together with the 4 or 5 point agenda that we had mentioned earlier in the last episode that we had. You mentioned how that this is supposed to be home based.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be driven to the average person on the streets of Akwa Ibom person getting the benefits or dividends of democracy. And if we look at that 5 point agenda, it borders around infrastructure, agriculture, education. I want to know if at this point we've been able to come to a point where we now know what the blueprint for these sectors are.
Like we did say the last time I was here, the governance is still in its infancy. Just like we know, even the president himself is yet to pick, his lieutenants to help him work. So it's still in its infancy. But we are strongly believing in the capacity. That is basically what we are hitched on. The capacity of the person in charge, the ability of the person to deliver. All right. So there's still a long way to go. This is just less than 60 days. Okay. So we still have more than 3.5 or more months to spend. But the issue here is we believe that the little time this wonderful man, this executive governor, has spent, thus far, we are already seeing the dividend itself, because you can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. So if you are a person of empathy, it definitely means that, you're definitely going to see that. People would see that, and already he is showing that. So from infrastructure to agriculture to rural emancipation and development and so on and so forth. These are things in the blueprint. These are things in the document, which we believe he understands so well. He knows how to solve them because he's been part of the system, and he believes that, just like I said, growing the economy from the bottom up, not from the top to the bottom, is the best way to grow any viable, sustainable economy.
All right. It's quite unfortunate that as the conversation got more intense and interesting, I have to let you guys go because we're pressed for time. But thank you so much, Henry Igwebike and Ubong Thompson. Thank you for dropping by the studio.
Thank you so very much.
Hopefully we'll get to see you again.
Yes.
Of course. All right. It is still iBrand Daybreak. When we return, just before we wrap it all up on today's edition, we'll bring you just another interesting conversation. Stay with us.